costume can be quite comfortable. It can make you feel more beautiful. It can even make you look like someone else. But it's still you, so there's nothing you can do. Like a bad habit, the one you couldn't kick, there it always is. And it's nothing that no doctor's gonna fix. They pat your back, Bruce. Hang on to all little things. Hang on to all little things. One day I'll turn around, you won't be there. And all the times it seems so hard, it won't matter. Expectation can last forever, while the lifetime slippery finger come out from inside my head. Hang on to all the little things you love. Hang on to all the little things you love.
Has a week really flown by? Welcome to another episode of The Person Behind the Pen. And I want to thank everyone for taking the time to be with us. I know this is for some dinner time, and certainly was dinner time just about 5 minutes ago. Mr. Galindo managed to get his pork chops in before he took Chief of Staffy, Nellie, to the backyard. She loves to play with her toys and chit-chat with herself during this time on this particular day. So we will not have her in the background today chomping on her bone, but you guys are definitely going to be chomping at the bit because this conversation is going to be wild in a good way. When men, money, and mental health came into play, I asked myself the question, am I really and truly ready to spearhead a book like this? I work with male and female writers. However, being put in a space to only work with men, which in a way, actually, I worked in skilled trades, so I was in a male-dominated industry. Anyway, I'm getting off track here. The point is, this is now, it's very different. It's me working with them to draw their stories out even more than they want to tell them. To ask them to go deeper than they ever have before, and to be okay with other people, and more so other men, reading these most intimate parts of their thoughts. It is daunting for many new writers to even begin the writing process, far less for tapping into what they want to talk about, and then the whole story development part. It has been such an experience for me, getting to know each of them, getting to understand why they think the way they think. Because I do need to know how they think, because that's the only way I'm going to know if they are telling the story the way they want to tell it. Because many times we tell it the way we think people want to read it. Getting brilliant writers has never been about that. I'm sorry, readers, we adore you, but we write for you second. We write for ourselves first. Now, before we jump on in, because I see tons of people that I have to acknowledge in the comments, and I'm seeing you, we will talk about why Nick is wearing this shirt. So, this is a very large shirt, sorry. It was given to my husband by Jason Forehand from Transformation Kitchen, and yes, I'm swimming in it. I got the coffee mug, which is really tiny, just like me. So this is a very special project coming up, and I have to mention it because I'm on the advisory board for Transformation Kitchen. Jason Forhan is a dear friend of mine, and I greatly support HR for you. In fact, I know Jason through the Outlier Project. And two of the writers here, Rich Bishop and Mark Holden, I also knew through the Outlier Project. This community has given so much back to myself and to all of its members, and I'll be remiss not to talk about them. I've had the opportunity to go to fundraisers for Transformation Kitchen and meet many of the members in person. And I know that I will meet all of these writers in person as well. There is no doubt about it. It is going to happen one way or the other. God willing, at a course signing soon. So, Rio de Sol is celebrating their 20th year anniversary, and I have been really fortunate to be the one to help bring this book to the world in October. It is of deep meaning to me because I was born and raised in Trinidad and Tobago in the Caribbean, a third world country myself. And I have seen and experienced some poverty, but nowhere near to this level. And as I went through this manuscript, I cannot believe the depth that this nonprofit has gone to. They actually work with many of the government agencies there, Ministry of Health, Ministry of Education, you name the ministry, they're working with them. And they are serving thousands of people. And I have to talk about this because when you think about life's very basics, food, shelter, and for many of us, that necessity needs to be education. What does the lack of those basic sustainables do to one's mental health? And so I tie that around because every single thing we do in this life, talk about, touch, the people we meet, places we go, this is all our mental health. And women's mental health is discussed quite openly these days. Men getting a bit better, but nowhere near where we need to be. And all of us here today have men in our lives that we want to support, but sometimes we just don't know how. And maybe this book, these stories, and these writers are going to be that bridge that helps us to close that gap. Before I bring them up, I am going to say hello to Stephen Eng, my neighbor who is out there 20, 30 minutes away from me, who works in a library and always shares the most pertinent information. So I troll him. And yes, I do text him too. I see Felipe Cofino in the audience. Felipe is the one to have written our foreword, and he will be here in part for the last of the series, along with my husband. Tom Doherty, thank you so much for joining. Jim Perona, these are outliers up in the house. Jason, my friend, I see you. Lynn, I see you, my darling. Thank you so much. Lynn, go check the Guiding Brilliant Writers page. You won the complimentary chapter in Between Bells, Lessons Learned Beyond the Books, coming next year, volume 2. I also see in the audience out there my girl Jackie. And I'm scrolling. I'm going to miss somebody. I know it, but I will catch you a little bit later on. I promise. All right. So with that, I'm going to bring all the gents on the stage at the same time. You ready? Let me see how buttons I can press at the same time. 1, 2. Put you on and take you off. And you're backstage. So welcome, guys. And thank you for taking the time to be with us. And I'll go round robin real quick. Rich Bishop and Mark Holden, as I mentioned, I met them through the Outlier Project. And I remember asking Jason, because, yeah, all these people don't just flock to watch Guiding Brilliant Writers. I do outreach. I think about the people, and I think about the theme to which we're writing. And those that, I feel could really and truly bring the impact with their stories to this book. I think Mark touched on that with me a bit in one of the conversations we had, which was and he really flipped a lot of things on its head for me in terms of how much what I do is actually process of what I do. So Mark, thank you for that. So Rich, like I said, I met through the Outlier, and I, troll everybody a little bit. He's a great guy. One thing that struck me about him is when we did the chapter review, I believe he was standing. Am I correct?
Yes. Just like I am now.
Yeah, you see, and so he was standing, and though I couldn't see his hands behind his back, maybe from time to time or whatnot, I just felt what a different way, because he was not looking at me. He was at an angle, listening to me read his story back to him, as I do all of the writers. And he didn't want a pause, like, if he wanted to check something, fix something. He wanted the whole feel of it. And I've found in getting to know him, he is that person that may not always be the first to speak, but he's very observant. He's listening first before he responds. So you know that when he responds, it doesn't matter how long the response is. It's impactful. It could be 2 words. And that, I think, is something that I genuinely learned in spending time with him. And I think it is important that you guys understand these co-authors become far more than writers that work with Guiding Brilliant Writers. They become my friends, and they become part of a family under this publishing company, right? So Mark Holden, I did just touch on this conversation we had. And I think, like, if a chapter review went like 45 minutes, we were probably on for like more than an hour. Because before we started the chapter at all, we got into a very deep conversation, right? About how I came to be here, how he came to be here, how we met. And honestly, I think he has experienced a lot more of the world than I have. Let's put it that way. I live vicariously through a lot of people, like Tom Doherty, who's always like hiking somewhere. And it was interesting to see my journey through his eyes. And I think that that is something that we sometimes take for granted, that we know our own story, and we do. However, when other people come into play, they often can give us another perspective on our story. Things that we don't see, the blind spots, right? Mark, so thank you for that. Shawn.
You're welcome. No, I loved it. At one point you said we could talk for hours, and I said, yeah, we should. Like that's the whole purpose of this book is, to find people on our path, our travelers. We become part of their path and vice versa. So then I get to celebrate the fact that I'm a part of this. I'm a part of your life for the rest of mine. Like right. you can't put, as they say, the toothpaste back in the tube. This dimension is now part of what we're living in.
I like that. Oh, goodness. All right, so let me get to Shawn because I talk a lot and I need some water. Okay, so Shawn, you will laugh. I do not quite remember how I met Shawn, but I will tell you that I believe one of the ways that I remember is in Leslie Flowers', who is backstage manning the controls, Mind Over Matter Monday show. And I seen him in there and I seen his comments. And whenever people make comments that tell me they're actually present and listening to the show, not just saying, hi, I'm here, that catches my attention. And then, when we see the depth of certain comments people make, we understand right away there is an alignment or connection there with that person before you have ever even DM'd them. We all feel it. We all gravitate to certain content and to certain people in the LinkedIn network. I say LinkedIn because that's where I met everyone here. Shawn has really made me think a lot about when I'm talking with my husband, who's from Mexico, in terms of being able to help him draw his story out without, how do I say this? Without coming across as if I'm attacking the machismo part of the Hispanic culture. Because that's the thing. I'm working with people all over the world. And, to draw the story out, I have to be very careful to not criticize any part of a person's culture. And so, he was able to bring that perspective to me, being married to a Guatemalan woman, and, how they interact. Oh, what did I miss? I missed something. Sean's telling me.
I'm trying, not married to a Guatemalan woman, but I've been here 12 years and I have a lot of relationship and I've seen it firsthand and because as you know, Nicole, I'm all about deep conversations.
Right.
Surface level isn't enough for me. So I've had deep conversations with my friends here. And so I understand that Latin American machismo.
Got you. Okay, so flip-flopping mouth to this summer. Sorry. All right, so you know what? Let's get to the guys. I am chatting up way too much. So, Rich, go ahead and share a little bit about yourself, and if you maybe want to tell the audience why you decided to partake in this project.
Absolutely. Yeah. So I am a father of 2 teenage girls, just sent my oldest off to Florida State, go Noles. My youngest is a sophomore in high school. So we're going through all of those transitions now. A long time ago, I wrote a book when they were much younger about the growth stages that they kind of go through. And recently I've been going through some things in my personal and professional life, which one of those is in the book here as my chapter. And I think in many ways I have told the story 1 or 2 times here on a podcast or 2, but it was very matter of fact and very surface. And I can be very, very direct and to the point in that way many times. And Nick, when you had kind of poked me about maybe being a part of this, I thought, this is a good time to really, as you said, get deeper into the story and be able to share some of the emotion that I went through, because there was a lot in this period of time that I went through. And it was a really good opportunity to kind of get down to the bottom of that and be able to share that with other people in hopes that they don't necessarily feel as alone going through some of those lows as sometimes I did.
Indeed. And I'm glad that you said yes to yourself, really. And again, I say everything comes back to mental health. And when you consider, one going off to college, that again, for a lot of people, you may not be an empty nester yet, but for a lot of people, that's a really big pivot, right? And I remember when my son moved out, he didn't go to college, but when he moved out, and for a long time, I couldn't really adjust. I missed him. The house felt empty, and again, these are all emotions that come into your life that have to be dealt with, right? So thank you for sharing that with us, and congratulations to her, and congratulations to your family. So thank you. Mark, what about you?
What do you want to know? Listen, I am very blessed in that I know a lot of really cool people, some of which are even listening to this call right now. But I'm a father, I'm a husband, I got these 2 beautiful daughters, and reference them in my chapter in the book even. I really enjoy learning what drives another human being. And through a lot of unique work, things like volunteering and just throwing events, I've discovered a lot from a behavioral standpoint. I mean, one of the most interesting classes I ever took was behavioral finance. And this was years ago. And it started to open up my mind as to why people do the things that they do. So I'm in the world of wealth management, but it's like you can talk numbers a lot, but at some point those numbers become somewhat of like a defense. It's like I'm proving that I know things, right? So I really wanted to be a part of this project because I've seen how people can evolve, but that evolution really, it takes peer leadership. It takes having someone that might sound, look, or act like you to say, I've gone through the muck and I'll help you through it. And I'll carry you, I'll continue telling you about what you can anticipate. So to be honest, not even that bad. So then they look back and realize, wow, I've accomplished quite a bit. And so it's almost like the swim coach mentality. It's like you're in the pool with the kids swimming to you, and every time the kid pops his head up, you're a little bit further back. and then it's like, oh wow, you thought you were swimming half the pool, you swam the whole thing, and you didn't realize it. So like success lies within us all. It takes a little peer leadership and invitation, like the actions that we're taking today, in order to get people over the hump sometimes.
I love that term, peer leadership, right? It's oftentimes you get involved in something, whether it's this or anything else, and we seem to automatically think or look toward an individual as a leader, right? And certainly some people do step up. And when we work out there, there are leaders. But when I think of peer leadership, especially in an anthology, right, this has to be a compilation of stories that everybody is willing to put themselves into. 100%. And I do ask for 100% commitment. The guys will tell you. But I'm not mean. At least I don't think I am. But I do ask for 100% commitment, right? You invest your time and your money and your energy into this. The readers are going to invest their money and their time to read this. Everybody deserves 100% out of it. So I think one of the things that you just said that struck me is behavioral finance. Like, I don't even think of the two tied together, right? But, I've learned a lot from Leslie, and I know she'll often tell me a poverty mindset, and I've come to understand that, right, along the way. So listening to you and knowing part of what you do with this volunteer work with some of the veterans who are obviously now back with more than just finances to deal with, and the help they can or can't get out there in the various organizations, the PTSD, and now even rediscovering their male identity, which was once just tied to the military. So there is so much that your story lends. And I just feel like when this book comes out and you can take it to one of these volunteer things that you do and share, it's going to open up a whole different wavelengths of conversation with these men. So thank you, Mark, for sharing. Shawn, what about yourself?
So I'm Shawn Michael, husband, father, ex people pleaser, prover, etc., etc. Moved out of the U.S. 13 years ago, and on my journey abroad 9 years ago, almost 9 years, well, not 9 years ago, my wife got pregnant. And so now I have an almost 9-year-old boy. A dream that had never, like, we'd given up all hope on it, and it just kind of shocked us. And we've been raising him in a foreign country under a different culture. So that's been, it's been a learning journey. And part of the reason I wanted to come to this book is because my heart is about men. Like, that's one of my first books I published was called Stronger Every Day, and it was a 30-day guided journal for self-worth for men. Because I looked out there, I looked on Amazon, there was self-worth for moms, self-worth for women, self-worth for Black gay men, self-worth for teens. There was almost nothing for men. And the other thing is sharing stories, bringing the story, because I've had my mental health challenges. And I also wanted to bring, and it's actually in the chapter, as you know, we hear the origin story, the tough spot, the bottom of the pit, and then the top of the mountain. But a lot of times we don't hear about that unsexy middle. And I think as men, we do a disservice to other men by not sharing that messy, unsexy middle.
That's well said. And I agree with you because, and then many of us have met through social media. And so social media, you don't always see the behind the scenes, right? And there is nothing wrong with us sharing our celebrations and our wins and the good things coming into our life. Um, but there's so much more to it than that. So thank you for sharing. I want to again just thank the audience for being here. I know everybody's listening intently, and I know everybody's also throwing up comments. We are seeing them. If you have any questions at all, put them in the chat, and we will get those questions answered for you. And if you are in the audience and you actually do have someone whose story sounds a little bit familiar to one of these men up here, definitely reach out, because once this book publishes and you read their story, do not lose that connection, because their story is something you might want to show or share with the person in your life that you think their story runs parallel to. So Rich, Mark, and Shawn, I'm going to ask you all at the same time. So I have to repeat the question. No, I haven't had to. You guys remember. I don't remember everything. I apologize. Okay, so what do you do professionally? Do you feel that any part of what you do for career drove part of this chapter, or all of it? Or did it start out personally and turn more professional, or vice versa? Was it all mixed up? Because so much of what we talk about when we refer to men and mental health is their identity. And everything with their identity is tied to their paycheck. How much can they provide for the family? How many vacations can they take them on? How many, huge vacations can they take them on? What does retirement look like? Am I a seven-figure in the bank guy? Like, there's so much that's just tied to money and nothing else, and everything else falls by the wayside. So that was a long-winded question, Rich.
No, your point is well made. I would say that, I am a firm believer that the most important job I'm ever going to have is to be a good father for my girls and to be a good husband to my wife. And so there is a lot of pressure to be able to provide with them. And yes, my chapter is all about what happened related to my career when something unexpected happened in the workplace, and related to everything that we were doing. It ended up impacting. And so it the pressure kind of starts with, I think, in many ways, wanting to be able to provide for your family and wanting to be able to frankly give them a life that's better than what you had. And then how do you continue to support that while also still being driven professionally to be successful, to be in high pressure situations, to be in the boardroom? It's an interesting dynamic between the two. And when one of them falls apart, it has a huge impact on the other side.
That is so true. Like, our personal and our professional are so very tied. And it's very easy for people to say, leave it at the front door. Either way, whether going into the office or going home, oftentimes there is definitely overlap, right? So thank you for sharing that part with us. And you guys definitely want to check out Rich's story, because I got to the point of what happened in his job, and then I went further down and I was like, oh no. So, but there is a happy ending. And who doesn't love a happy ending? All right, Mark, what about you?
So real fast, I just want to say shout out to Zandra Davis, who's listening right now. I haven't talked to her in probably like 20 years, and she is a beautiful human being. But let me get after the question here. So you're talking about like work and home life, really, right, Nick? That's the idea. That's a question.
Yeah, when you decided to do this chapter and you started writing it, was it being driven more from the professional side of things or more the personal? Did that change in between? Was it a bit of both?
There was someone who gave me really good advice many years ago. I surfaced a question: how do we have multiplicity? How do we have all these different hats at different times, especially as fathers, as family men? How do you do such a thing? Like, how do you create this work-life balance? And the gentleman who I asked said, just do them all. Like where are you driving your life into? It's like railroad tracks. They all go the same direction. So like, what's the end destination? And it kind of blew my mind a little bit when I asked him, Dr. Jeff Spencer, for those who are curious. And so what I really started to chew on was, why did I try to, categorize myself in so many different labels? What I'm really coming to understand is that we can play different parts in our lives, and it's necessary in order to navigate these very complex work structures, social structures, all the dynamics that are thrown at us. You simply have a different feel of the room in which you walk into. It's just human behavior. You want to be identified as someone who's warmly received, and you adjust that a little bit each time you walk into a different room, right? If I walk into a room downtown Chicago where I'm going to an all-female networking event, which I've been in the past, I'm going to change how I act. It's just a natural pattern. But the deep, rich value system is the driver of what I'm thinking about saying. So you can't disassociate so much work from life, because if you are, well, then realistically, there's no value add. You are living the life that someone forced on you when you were much younger and didn't have a systematized version of understanding what value you can actually bring to the world. So as men, unless that's tapped into and revisited, we just carry that along, chipping away every single day, playing the same 24 hours in hopes that we believe that we are doing something right for someone else. Approving methodology, right? And I'm with Rich. Like I love to serve my daughters. I love to be the man that they can look up to. And again, that's touched on in my chapter. And that drives my decision making. If I'm out and about in the world earning, doing my business, well, then I get to share that with people too, because as I mentioned earlier, the dynamic of how you interact with someone pulls them into your life and vice versa. And so I believe it's a full blend, and we have to sort of elevate to realize where we are at in terms of fitting into a value system. And if we're not well received, we can just simply move on and tackle something else.
Talk about a different perspective. Wow. Because I touched on coming into, this and wondering, how am I going to fare in a room full of guys? And I'm trying to ask them, to open up their hearts and bleed their story onto the page. And you are right. You do step into every room a little bit differently. You do gauge the room. And though I know I have to bring to it my knowledge, I also have to really get a feel for the whole room, where everybody is, and everybody's not in the same place. Everybody is on a scale, right? Neither the lower or the higher end being better than the next. The thing is, if I didn't bring in, and I just approached as a publisher, and I didn't approach as Nick, then I don't know that this would have turned out the way that it has. And like you say, that's the interesting value, right there. So I hope that everyone in the audience is listening to it, but I hope that the men especially are listening to this episode and hearing what is being said. The professional you and the personal you are still the same person, but you can find value in both and even in the overlap. So Mark, thank you so much for sharing that. And Shawn, what about you?
I would say I came into the chapter from that dual purpose. I wanted to bring the professional side, but also the personal side, the deeper story. And I 100% agree with Mark. I put it in the comments, right? We might change the way we speak, the way we act, but we don't change. Like, the real growth point is when I am who I am, whether I'm sitting alone at home or I'm in a room full of women networking or whatever the situation is. I no longer shrink. I no longer contort myself to fit in the box. Yes, I have, as you said, cultural sensitivity, contextual sensitivity, situational, the buzzword today, situational leadership. And that's what I know, that's one thing I'm teaching my son, is everything has a time and a place. We have to be aware of the context that we're in. Like, if he wants to scream and yell while mom's on the phone, not a good time. But go to the park and go wild, have fun, be a kid. But it has been a huge growth experience, like going through, rereading my story. You mentioned Rich standing, and I was standing when we did the read through too. And I remember that there was a point in the story, and I've done years of, rooms full of men holding each other accountable with professionals. I've done years and years and years of work on myself. But there was a moment in the story where I just it just, like, hearing it read back was very different than writing it and rereading it and doing your own edits. It's very different.
Well, goodness gracious, I don't even know what to say. Thank you for that. I can't tell you that I've read so many chapters now over these last few years. And reading them back as well, there is a little bit of myself that is going, am I doing justice to this person's writing? If I chop a word up, or I miss a punctuation, meaning I don't take a breath, or I don't raise my voice like it's a question and stuff like that. And so that it does mean a lot to me that you feel the impact of having it read by someone else and somebody that does not know all of your story. So thank you for that as well. So there are so many comments up there. There is a comment-ish question. I'm going to bring this up from Felipe saying, Rich Bishop, is it that internal dialogue you have when your role as provider is threatened because of an unexpected career change?
Yeah, it absolutely is. And there's a ton of internal dialogue, especially when you have ADHD and you have an internal dialogue going all the time anyway. So it then really comes down to, okay, when do you listen to it? When is it telling you the truth? And when is it not? When is it being, just reacting emotionally to what's happening? I mean, all of those things, the thoughts, the feelings, the emotions, it all comes into play. And, I had some strong men in my life that I could call, that I could talk to, that I could be a little bit vulnerable with. I have a couple of really dear friends that I was able to do that with and just kind of bounce some of those ideas like, hey, this is kind of what I'm thinking. Is this right? Just to kind of check myself. I think to get to the heart of it, the answer really is don't necessarily believe that internal dialogue, but check it.
I like that, because we all do. And the thing is, like, we often say lean into our intuition, right? Listen to that inner voice. We do have to learn to trust it, but at one point, we do also have to question it. So there's not always a hard and fast rule to everything. I think that was very interesting. So I saw Felipe's question there. And now, so I want to ask you guys a little bit of not a tough one, but guys out there in the audience, if you are dealing with something right now that is affecting your mental health, and you can summarize it and say, hey, listen, X is what's happening right now. I would love to know how you might approach this situation. I'm going to ask each of you on stage, what would you say right now to a man who's listening and is unable to put a comment in there? What would you say to encourage him to put that comment in there right now and say that the three of you are here and he is seen, heard, and felt? In whichever order you want to take this. It's a big one, I know. It is a big one. So
I'll jump in because I'm afraid. I'm answering first because I'm afraid. And that's the whole point. It's to do things that are scary. Now, the dark work is really what we're all dancing around with all these conversations. And as it was said earlier, the messy middle, that kind of stuff you don't put out on LinkedIn or the socials, or you don't get to put in a picture behind you on the wall. So it's really the dark work that must be embraced, because whatever you feel as though that might be scary to look at inside is the exact thing that's hiding all the gold, that's hiding your greatest value. Because once you can pierce that veil, because it's just an opaque veil, then you'll discover so much abundance inside. The kingdom of God is inside. That's the idea. It's there. We overjudge, we get in our own ways because of the head space, but we can sink back down into the heart space and realize that we're all filled with bountiful joy and love. We just are living someone else's version of what success might look like. And that's friction. It's tons and tons of friction. So much so that the ego will convince us that we got to keep those things up to avoid the pain, which is counterintuitive, because it's an addiction to that very pain that keeps you stuck. So do what's seemingly hard, not going to the gym and trying to throw up more weight in a PR, but getting into the dark work. And if it means something just to say, hey, reach out to these guys in the call right now, or any of the authors in this book, or just another guy you think will trust you well enough to receive and not simply judge, but just sit there and listen. And that's the best version of the next step. At least that's my belief.
That was excellent. That was excellent, because I think for all of us, right, we are afraid. The first thing that we think is we want to be safe. And so safe sometimes is you are in the environment that you are in your head. And because you haven't stepped outside of it, it feels safe. But you're actually in a dangerous environment. And, you have 3 men on stage here from all different walks of life. They're husbands, they're fathers of different age kids, they have different cultural backgrounds, different traditional upbringings, and every single one of them is driving at their lives, and the lives of their loved ones have been improved because they were willing to take the step to put in that hard work. My therapist tells me, my psychiatrist/therapist, when I say to him, thank you for these last 5 years being the best 5 years of my life, and not getting into a manic or depressive state with my bipolar, because I've been able to manage it. He says, you can thank everyone else around you, but at the end of the day, the only person that can put in the work is you. You have to put in the work. And perhaps we all don't give ourselves enough praise for doing that. Because even if you're out there right now struggling with something and you are not ready to put it in the comments, doesn't mean that you will always not be ready. A week from now, you might say, you know what? It's been bugging me every day. I really want to reach out to that guy and say, hey, something you said helped something in my mind shift. Sometimes it's as simple as that. One line. It is a lifeline, because these guys aren't up here telling you, oh, I know how to do everything right, and I always did. That's not what they're telling you. Good Lord, I can't even tell you how many times I have freaked out over publishing a book. Every book, I sit there nervously as hell going, is this going to come off right? Is this going to come off right? It doesn't matter how many times I did it, right? It's not that I don't trust myself, but at the same time, we are human. So that lifeline is important. I don't know if either of you would like to go ahead and tackle that as well. If you want to try to reach somebody that is out there, by all means, go ahead and do so.
And I'll jump in. I've learned that ready is we get it backwards. We wait to do the thing till we feel ready. And that's a moving target, right? Because when I just have enough confidence, I'll do it. When I feel the space is safe enough, I'll do it. And one of my favorite saying is, if I don't know it's broken, if I don't speak up, how can it change? I think one thing as men, we like to avoid certain pain, some certain discomfort, and we're very good at just pushing forward. Right? That's our drug of choice. Like, I don't want to face this. I don't want to talk about it. I'll just head down, do the work, get through it. I would say, and I'll just share that I've been through stuff that, through my own mistakes, that I was afraid to post anything on about my story. So this chapter is huge. But I remember I was going to speak at a summit, and this is when I first told the story publicly. And I was scared to death. And it was a legitimate fear. And I would say all fear feels real, but it's all generated by our thoughts. So I just did it. I just got up there, spoke it, and it's like ready came afterwards. That gave me the boldness to take the next step. That gave me the power to say, I can do this. And I survived. And all the things that I was worried about never even happened. You said LinkedIn. I think a lot of times we think, oh, it's LinkedIn. It's the professional network. I can't share that. But by sharing it, you open the door for somebody else to go, I'm facing that same question.
Yeah.
Right? I love Marianne Williamson's quote, right? By shining our light, by asking the question, we give others the permission to do the same.
Very, very true. Oh, well, look at that. Lynn's got a question as well. How much of the male stereotype of not talking about because the father figure saying men don't cry, men don't talk about their feelings? That is a very good question, right? Generationally, a lot is handed down and a lot is expected of. Rich, want to take a shot at that one?
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot to that, because it's not just the father figure, it's the brotherly figures too, right? When you're a boy growing up in the neighborhood and you get into a scuffle, you can't cry, you can't show them that you're crying, that it hurts you, that it bothers you, and even when something sad happens, you try not to do that. It is a little bit of a show, but you have to be able to then process it, even if in the moment you decide not to cry, even now. Right. You still have to be able to process it. There is a point in time where you've got to be able to cry or to have those feelings and to feel those feelings. And to Shawn's point, I think shining a light on those things is so critically important. It's kind of like when your kids are little and they think that there's a monster under their bed or in the closet. What do? You turn on the light and you show them. Otherwise, they're going to be scared all night, wondering what's there in the closet. And until you actually look at what's in the closet, you don't know and you're worried about it. So it's very much the same thing. I think that, having gone through a number of those times myself, that I really learned that it's sitting in that moment, sitting with those feelings. Yeah, often it's by myself, but being able to try to process those things and then talk about those things to somebody that you trust, it allows you to shine that light on that scary thing and to be able to get past those feelings and actually process it.
I agree with you. So many times we're fearful of something that we don't actually know is there because we haven't seen it. Oh, it is intangible. And Sean's emphasizing what you said, and I agree. It isn't just the father figure. Maybe it is that older brother. Maybe it is even the younger brother that is now taking over the family business, or following in the footsteps that the traditionally, the family wants to follow. How do you now even yourself be yourself in situations like that, and at the same time feel like you're manning up, right? That expression, manning up. So before I go on, I want to acknowledge Timothy Gleason. He's my Aussie bro that I've known for quite a few years on LinkedIn. He wrote in the very first Legacy Chronicles, "A Note to My Family, I'm Your Legacy." And we're about to publish the fourth at Thanksgiving. So we kicked that off in 2 weeks. This gentleman has been part of my life for a long time. And he works with Lemon Tree to raise funds, his team, and they're always raising funds for suicide awareness. He was handpicked by me to do an endorsement for this book. So yes, guys, he has read your chapters. So his endorsement is going to be there as well. I think carefully when I select the people that are going to endorse the book. So Timothy, thank you so much for doing that for us and for being here, because I know you're a good 12 hours ahead of us. God alone knows what time it is there. You're probably out at the beach catching a surf. So thank you again. Sorry. I would say it is important to acknowledge how you are feeling, and it's okay to feel that way. What can I do to help you in this moment? And so that makes me ask this question now. What would you tell the women out in this audience, right, who are struggling with somebody in their life, whether it's a father, a husband, a brother, a son? They think they're going through something. They know they're going through something. They can see the signs, but they don't know how to approach without shutting them out. Anybody want to jump with that one? Every man's different. I guess you're going to also have to understand the person. But what are some of the perhaps phrases that one would have try to not avoid, but be careful of using?
And I use this myself when I'm talking to the brothers, the people that I'm talking to. Instead of the old, "How are you?" Because as men, we like to say, "I'm fine." I ask, "What's weighing on you right now?" Or "What's weighing on you these days?" Approach it with and the key, you can't just ask the question. You've got to have curiosity in your heart. Like that pure curiosity, like, I really care what's going on. Right? Tell me, how can I support you? I've even flipped that with my wife. She's going through perimenopause right now. So if you know somebody like that, you know what I'm talking about. And I've learned, like, okay, I don't accuse, I don't try to judge. I'm like, how can I support you? Do you want me close? Do you want me out of the room? Like, if we approach people with that, like, I'm here.
Yeah.
But it's not going to happen overnight, because if we've spent years conditioning somebody that I'm not safe, they're not going to open up. Mm-hmm. Not the first time. But if you keep gently knocking at the heart, I believe the door will open little by little.
Mm-hmm. I really like Tom's question, especially if it is not someone in your immediate family, or you know what I'm saying, as like Shawn talked about his wife, right? Maybe you just have friends, even friends that are more acquaintances because you're not in touch with them all the time, but you observe something. Hey, what's going on with you? I haven't spoken to you in a while. So, what are you celebrating these days? What are you navigating? That is such a great question. Without poking, okay, or making the person feel that I'm only trying to see what negativity is going on in your life right now. That is such a good question. So, Mark, I'm coming to you here because I know that you and Tom definitely came. He did this awesome graphic shout out thing with him, like running with lemonade and not spilling it. I'm very klutzy. For his birthday. So happy belated birthday. Like it was literally just the other day. And so I'm going to throw this question at you. Does anybody in your family, right, know that you are publishing this chapter? Have you spoken to anyone? Have you told them I'm doing this? How do you feel about saying, hey, I just wrote in this book and published, read it? What are you feeling? What are you feeling in terms of that question? I'll probably ask all of you that question.
I didn't really think about that angle until this moment in time.
Oops.
Truly. It's like, how does my family see me? Well, to say it fairly bluntly, I don't care. Like, I'm doing the project because I know it can help. And if anyone thinks this is a bad idea, well, then that's the most wonderful thing to know, so that I can move forward with my life and spend time with more elevated people. So I'm very okay doing this particular book. I mean, look at the people in this, like the with Rich and Shawn right now. Like, these guys are amazing guys. I'm learning real time what's going on in their heads and how they're processing. I get to learn and identify well with other successful men. That is the very meta version of doing this entire project. And by the way, Tom Doherty is a awesome guy. And if anyone out there does not know him, connect with him right now on LinkedIn and tell him Mark Holden sent you. He's gonna be like, "What did you do, Mark?" But in any case, yeah, it's a fabulous thing, because like Tom and I's relationship is a function of graceful masculinity. I am proud to have him in my life and on my team as a supporter. And you bet your bottom that like I listen intently when he's talking, because it's not about the lexicon. It's not about the word choice that people actually use. It's the energy that drives all those chosen words. And actually, to touch on a question a moment ago, it's like, how does someone else in the man's world help him start talking about certain things? I think this is true to what's going on with this book. It's environmental building. Nick, this is what you do very well in your anthologies. It's like you build the space for people that didn't express themselves. If someone's around a man that just continues to yap at him, he will never say anything. It's the truth. Like, people say, "Oh, this guy's so stoic." Look at who's around him, who takes up airspace continuously. Like, fun fact, anyone can be part of a problem that they don't realize they're a part of, right? So it takes self-reflection to be of service to someone else, especially a man who believes, you know what, I'm better off just ignoring the situation and steamrolling ahead here, because I know I can control that. This is a lot. So then it's like, how do you help another man? You build the environment which he checks as many boxes as possible to feel trusted, seen, and loved.
Many boxes. That's funny. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to be like cackling all over the place behind my hand here, but yeah, you're right. You can't be a yappy environment, and but I will say, somebody as stoic as my husband, and we shared it in the chapter that he's very, very quiet, and he asked when we were dating, Nick, do you think that I'm too quiet? And I said, no, I talk enough for both of us. And I said it very matter of fact. And in a sense, by filling the silence to some extent, as time went by, that silence grew very comfortable between us until I didn't need to yap, and then he felt to talk. So it was interesting how that worked out. I don't know where the hour's gone. I really wanted to stay here chatting. Like, audience, if you need to go eat, fine. But I'm sure everybody has stuff to do. We're on time, but I am going to ask each of you to take a couple minutes to wrap up. Share any parting thoughts that you have. If you want to share something that's up and coming for you, just by all means take a couple of minutes, because the spotlight is not just on the books, but it's on each of the book, but it's on each of the men that is up here, because really and truly it is their life, and because they have lived that has brought them to this point. so rich.
Well, first of all, Nick, thank you for having us on. I can't believe it's been an hour already. This has been fun. I do feel like we could do this forever. And we should talk again some more, but I really enjoyed this. I'm really looking forward to this book. I think being able to get these stories out there is just so important for men to be able to read and to be able to see others' experiences and what they're going through, and really get to that messy middle. I like to call it the mid game, but it really is like halftime adjustments along the way. You've always got an opportunity to make changes to the path that you're on, even though sometimes you feel stuck. So I'm excited to be able to get my story and the other stories out there for everybody to read.
Mark.
This is fabulous. I feel better at all times knowing that there's incredible people like you guys that are supporting this this project. Now, I will say that there's a lot that scares me about the things that I do, because I mean, I go into people's homes and I have to be of a conversational leadership, of an experiential leadership well enough to not only see like the dynamics between the couple that I'm talking to, but also what they're going through, what they're worried about, and them trying to assess me. There's a lot of immediate dynamics at play. And what I realized is that if I'm striving towards this idea of perfection of an outcome, I mean, a little bit about what Shawn was talking about earlier, then I fail. I'm no longer listening, because you can't really be judgmental and curious at the same time. So then you just stay in the world of curiosity first, and then have the conversational leadership to say, I'm just listening for now. You know what? I don't know that I can actually pass judgment in the moment. So I'm just going to listen for a little while. And you can still talk while staying curious. And it creates just like a bridging mechanism to really invite new energies and new grounded ideas, and let people talk about the things that are, you know, the currents underneath. So if we can all get to those currents as fast as possible, then we're all going to collaborate. We're all going to connect better. We're all going to resonate better, and move forward as a society quicker.
Couldn't agree more, and that's how I feel. You know, one person can reach many, but many can reach the masses, and that's what a lot of these stigma breaking anthologies are about. Because you just said something very interesting. You could be talking and still be curious. There are people out there who are going to read this book, and though they are reading, they're going to feel like they're being listened to. Both ways, right? So I'm going to say that, you know, there are people that you're going to impact, and you're never going to know who they are. You're never going to shake their hand. You're never going to know their name. You never know where they're going to take what they've learned and share it with who. Shawn.
It's like you planned that, Nicole, because that's exactly what I wanted to share, is that this book, I believe it will impact men's lives by all of us coming and sharing our story, the bright days, the valleys, all of it. It will open a channel that men will say, hey, I'm not alone. Because I think a lot of times we isolate, and as men or women, we isolate and think, I'm the only one dealing with this. Nobody could understand what I'm going through. And by us having this conversation, sharing our stories in the book, and I appreciated, Nicole, when you read it back to me, and you told me there's a part of my chapter where I said, stop, put the book down. And you said, I put the book down and looked through the questions. I sat with the questions. I've had many times where I was blessed to know that an impact happened, but not from the person. Actually, another friend told me, he's like, you know that guy you used to minister to in the street? Like, he comes to my church and he talks about you all the time and how much of an impact you had in his life. And I'm like, wow. But, you know, and every time that someone reads this and they pass it to another person, like, wow, this really shifted me. It's a ripple. It's an ROI, ripples of impact.
Nice. I like that. What a great way to conclude. Because this book is going to be passed down through the generations to all of your future generations. And the men in your bloodline are going to know who you were, what you stood for, how you lived, how you came to learn the lessons that you did. And they're going to know that they're not alone then, that you're working with them still. This is also legacy. So I want to thank all three of you for being here, for being a part of this project, for doing the work that you're doing with yourselves, and therefore leading the example to show others, not just to do this work, but that the work can be done. And there are people out here who want to support this work to be done. I'm going to bring you backstage now. If you just hang out for a quick second, I will be right there. And thank you. We were 6 minutes over, so thank you for waiting. And wonderful audience, thank you for being so engaged. Okay. Wow, what a great episode. This is only part 2 of the 4-part series on men, money, and mental health. Next Tuesday, same time, we will be back with 3 more of the co-authors. I am grateful to everyone that came, that listened, that shared comments. And even if you did not share a comment and you are out there, know that this energy coming to you is coming to you from all of us who are on stage and all who are in the comments as well. Because a movement cannot be with one. A movement is with many. And this is exactly what this is. And we have to start somewhere. Many are starting, but as we start, hopefully we go into circles where other people are also moving and the movement grows larger. Again, thank you for supporting, and thank you for supporting Guiding Brilliant Writers. Good night.